For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On the evening of October 12, 1995, 17-year-old Alex Thompson vanished without a trace from his family's home in the quiet suburb of Millfield, Ohio. The high school senior had been in his bedroom studying for his SATs when he disappeared, leaving behind only an open window and a mystery that would tear his family apart for more than a year. Despite an extensive investigation involving local police, the FBI, and hundreds of volunteers, no trace of Alex was ever found. The case became one of Ohio's most perplexing missing person mysteries, with investigators unable to explain how a responsible teenager could vanish from his own home without leaving any clues. For 12 months, Alex's disappearance remained unsolved, devastating his family and haunting the close-knit community of Millfield. Then, in November 1996, Alex's younger brother Marcus was cleaning out the family's basement when he made a discovery that would finally provide answers to questions that had consumed their lives for over a year. Hidden behind old Christmas decorations, Marcus found the charred remains of what appeared to be a diary or journal. Despite the fire damage, enough of the text was still legible to reveal a truth that was far more shocking than anyone could have imagined. The burnt pages would not only solve Alex's disappearance but would also expose a family secret that had been hidden for years. This is the complete investigation into Alex Thompson's disappearance, from the suburban bedroom where he vanished to the devastating revelation that would emerge from the ashes of a diary that someone had tried desperately to destroy. Chapter 1: The Perfect Student. October 12, 1995 was a typical Thursday evening in the Thompson household on Maple Street in Millfield, Ohio. The family was following their usual weeknight routine, with 17-year-old Alex Thompson upstairs in his bedroom studying for the SATs while his younger brother Marcus, 14, worked on homework in the living room. Alex Thompson was everything parents hoped for in a high school senior: academically excellent, athletically talented, and socially well-adjusted. He maintained a 3.8 GPA, served as captain of the varsity soccer team, and was actively involved in student government at Millfield High School. The Thompson family had lived in Millfield for Alex's entire life, having moved to the suburban community when his father, Robert Thompson, took a position as an engineering supervisor at a local manufacturing plant. Alex's mother, Linda Thompson, worked part-time as a nurse at the community hospital while managing the household and supporting her son's activities. Alex had been particularly focused on his studies during the fall of 1995, as he prepared for college applications and standardized tests. He had already been accepted to Ohio State University and was hoping to earn additional scholarships through his SAT scores and academic achievements. On the evening of October 12, Alex had eaten dinner with his family around 6:30 p.m. before heading upstairs to study. His parents later described him as being in good spirits, discussing his upcoming soccer playoffs and his excitement about college plans. Marcus Thompson, who shared many classes with his older brother despite the 3-year age difference, had been working on a history project in the living room while Alex studied upstairs. The brothers had always been close, and Marcus looked up to Alex as both a role model and a friend. Around 8 p.m., Linda Thompson had taken a cup of hot chocolate up to Alex's room, as was her custom during his study sessions. She found him at his desk with his SAT prep books spread out around him, working diligently on practice problems. Alex had thanked her for the drink and mentioned that he planned to study for another hour before going to bed. This would be the last time anyone in the Thompson family saw Alex alive. At approximately 9:30 p.m., Robert Thompson went upstairs to check on Alex and found his bedroom empty. Alex's textbooks were still open on his desk, and his hot chocolate sat half-finished, but Alex was nowhere to be seen. The bedroom window was open, though it had been closed when Linda had visited earlier. Robert's initial assumption was that Alex had gone downstairs for a snack or to use the bathroom, but a quick search of the house revealed that Alex was not on the first floor. When Robert returned to Alex's room for a more thorough examination, he noticed that Alex's backpack and jacket were missing, though his wallet and car keys remained on the dresser. By 10 p.m., when Alex still hadn't reappeared, the Thompson family began to worry seriously. Alex was extremely responsible and had never left the house without telling his parents where he was going, especially not through his bedroom window on a school night. Linda Thompson called several of Alex's friends to see if he had gone to visit someone, but none of them had seen or heard from him that evening. Alex's girlfriend, Sarah Martinez, was particularly concerned because Alex had made plans to call her at 10 p.m. to discuss their weekend plans. At 10:30 p.m., the Thompson family made the decision to contact the Millfield Police Department. The call was received by Officer Jennifer Walsh, who immediately recognized the unusual circumstances of Alex's disappearance and dispatched units to the Thompson home. Officer Walsh arrived at the Thompson residence at 10:45 p.m. and began taking statements from family members about Alex's activities and state of mind. The investigation revealed that Alex had seemed completely normal throughout the day and had given no indication that he was planning to leave home. The examination of Alex's bedroom revealed that the window screen had been removed from inside the room and was leaning against the exterior wall below the window. The window itself was a second-story opening that would require some effort and planning to exit safely, suggesting that Alex's departure had been deliberate rather than impulsive. However, there were no signs of struggle in the room, no evidence that Alex had been forced to leave, and no indication of what might have motivated him to climb out of his bedroom window on a school night. His personal belongings remained untouched except for his backpack and jacket. By midnight on October 12th, additional police units had arrived to conduct a systematic search of the neighborhood around the Thompson home. Officers checked nearby parks, friends' houses, and any location where a 17-year-old might go during a late evening outing. The initial search revealed no trace of Alex Thompson. Neighbors reported that they had not seen or heard anything unusual during the evening, and there were no signs that Alex had been in the immediate area after leaving his bedroom window. Detective Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell was called in to take charge of the investigation at 1 a.m. on October 13th. With 15 years of experience in missing person cases, Mitchell immediately recognized that Alex's disappearance had several unusual characteristics that warranted serious investigation. The circumstances of Alex's vanishing from his own bedroom while studying on a school night without his wallet or car keys suggested either that he had left voluntarily for reasons unknown to his family, or that he had been taken by someone who had convinced him to leave willingly. As dawn approached on October 13th, Alex Thompson had been missing for over 8 hours without any confirmed sightings or evidence of his whereabouts. The responsible high school senior who had been focused on his future just hours earlier had vanished into the Ohio night, leaving behind only questions and a family desperate for answers. The search for Alex was about to become one of Millfield's most intensive missing person investigations, involving hundreds of volunteers and law enforcement officers in a desperate effort to find a teenager who seemed to have disappeared without leaving any trace of where he had gone or why. Chapter 2: The Investigation. The search for Alex Thompson intensified dramatically on October 13, 1995, as the Millfield Police Department recognized that his disappearance from his own bedroom required immediate and extensive resources to determine whether he had left voluntarily or had been abducted. Detective Mitchell began with comprehensive interviews of the Thompson family, focusing on Alex's state of mind, his relationships, and any recent changes in behavior that might explain his sudden departure. The interviews revealed a picture of a well-adjusted teenager with no apparent problems or conflicts. However, Detective Mitchell's experience had taught her that teenagers often hid problems from their parents, and she began investigating Alex's life outside his family's knowledge. This included speaking with teachers, coaches, friends, and anyone else who might have insight into aspects of Alex's life that his parents weren't aware of. The interviews at Millfield High School revealed that Alex had been his usual self in the days leading up to his disappearance. Teachers described him as focused and motivated, coaches reported that he was performing well in soccer, and friends said he had been excited about upcoming college plans. However, one concerning piece of information emerged from Alex's guidance counselor, Mrs. Dorothy Chen. She reported that Alex had seemed unusually stressed during their last meeting about college applications, and had asked several questions about confidential counseling services available to students. Mrs. Chen couldn't provide specifics about what might have been troubling Alex, as he hadn't requested formal counseling, but her observations suggested that he might have been dealing with issues that he hadn't shared with his family or close friends. The investigation also examined Alex's bedroom in detail, looking for any clues about his state of mind or plans that might explain his disappearance. Detective Mitchell's team found Alex's computer and began analyzing his internet usage, email correspondence, and any digital evidence that might provide insights. The computer analysis revealed normal teenage activity, schoolwork, college research, communication with friends, and typical internet browsing. However, investigators did find that Alex had recently searched for information about emancipation laws and legal independence for minors, which raised questions about his home situation. Detective Mitchell expanded the investigation to examine the Thompson family's background more thoroughly. While the family appeared stable and supportive, she knew that domestic problems could be well hidden, and Alex's internet searches suggested he might have been considering legal separation from his parents. The background investigation revealed that Robert Thompson had a history of alcohol abuse, though he had been sober for over 2 years and was active in Alcoholics Anonymous. Linda Thompson had no criminal record or concerning history, and both parents were well regarded in their community and professions. However, neighbors and family friends mentioned that Robert had been prone to angry outbursts during his drinking years, and some recalled incidents where police had been called to the Thompson home for domestic disturbances, though no charges had ever been filed. Meanwhile, the physical search for Alex expanded throughout Millfield and surrounding communities. The Ohio State Highway Patrol provided assistance, and volunteer search teams began systematic coverage of all areas where a teenager might go voluntarily or where he might be hidden if he had been abducted. The case received extensive media coverage throughout Ohio, with Alex's photograph appearing on television news programs and in newspapers. The story of a high school senior disappearing from his bedroom captured public attention and generated numerous tips from concerned citizens. Most of the tips involved reported sightings of teenagers who resembled Alex in various locations throughout Ohio and neighboring states. However, investigation of these sightings revealed that none involved Alex himself, and most were cases of mistaken identity. One potentially significant lead came from a gas station attendant who reported seeing a teenager matching Alex's description with an older man at a truck stop about 30 miles from Millfield on the morning of October 13th. However, security footage from the location was too unclear to make a positive identification. The FBI joined the investigation on October 15th, bringing federal resources and expertise in cases involving missing minors who might have been transported across state lines. Special Agent Robert Kim was assigned to coordinate with local investigators and analyze the possibility of abduction. Agent Kim's investigation focused on registered sex offenders and individuals with histories of crimes against children who might have been in the Millfield area during Alex's disappearance. However, this line of investigation produced no credible suspects or connections to Alex's case. As October 1995 turned into November, Alex had been missing for over 3 weeks without any confirmed sightings or physical evidence. The investigation had involved hundreds of law enforcement officers and volunteers but had produced no concrete leads about his whereabouts. The case was particularly frustrating for investigators because Alex's disappearance seemed to fall between categories. He was too old to be a typical child abduction victim, but too young and responsible to simply run away without explanation. The circumstances suggested planning, but the lack of preparation contradicted this theory. Detective Mitchell continued to focus on the possibility that Alex had left home due to family problems that hadn't been disclosed. However, repeated interviews with family members and friends had produced no evidence of abuse, conflict, or other issues that might have motivated him to leave. The investigation also considered the possibility that Alex had been struggling with issues related to his sexual identity or other personal problems that he felt unable to discuss with his family. However, friends and romantic interests reported no indications that Alex was dealing with such concerns. As 1995 came to an end, the active search for Alex was gradually scaled back, though the case remained open and active. The transition from intensive daily investigation to periodic review was devastating for the Thompson family, who had to accept that their son might not be found quickly. Robert and Linda Thompson hired private investigator Thomas Walsh in early 1996 to continue searching for Alex when it became clear that the official investigation had exhausted its immediate leads. Walsh brought fresh perspective to the case but was unable to develop new theories about Alex's disappearance. The Thompson family also began attending support groups for families of missing persons and worked with national organizations to keep Alex's case in the public consciousness. They distributed flyers, maintained a website, and participated in awareness campaigns throughout Ohio and neighboring states. Marcus Thompson, Alex's younger brother, was particularly affected by the disappearance. He had lost not only his brother but also his role model and closest friend. The family's focus on finding Alex had necessarily reduced the attention available for Marcus, who was struggling with his own grief and confusion. As 1996 progressed, the mystery of Alex Thompson's disappearance seemed destined to remain unsolved. However, the answers to his fate were actually hidden much closer to home than anyone realized, waiting to be discovered in the basement of the family home where Alex had lived his entire life. Chapter 3: A House of Secrets. The year following Alex Thompson's disappearance was marked by a gradual but devastating change in the family's dynamics. The house on Maple Street, once filled with the sounds of teenage life and family activities, became a place haunted by Alex's absence and the unanswered questions surrounding his fate. Robert Thompson struggled with the investigation's focus on his past alcohol problems and the suggestion that family issues might have contributed to Alex's disappearance. While he had been sober for over 2 years, the stress of Alex's disappearance and the scrutiny of his past behavior led to several relapses that strained his relationship with Linda. Linda Thompson threw herself into the search for Alex, spending countless hours distributing flyers, coordinating with missing person organizations, and maintaining hope that her son would eventually return home. Her dedication to finding Alex was both admirable and obsessive, leaving little emotional energy for other family relationships. Marcus Thompson, now 15, found himself largely ignored as his parents focused on finding his missing brother. The teenager who had once been part of a close family unit was now essentially living as an only child in a household consumed by grief and uncertainty. Marcus dealt with his isolation by spending increasing amounts of time alone in the family's basement, which had been converted into a recreation room and study area. The basement had always been a place where Alex and Marcus had played video games, watched television, and worked on school projects together. The basement held many memories of Alex, and Marcus found some comfort in being surrounded by reminders of their shared experiences. However, the space also served as a retreat from the tension and sadness that had come to characterize the main areas of the house. Throughout 1996, Marcus had been gradually taking on more responsibility for household maintenance as his parents became increasingly preoccupied with the search for Alex. This included organizing storage areas, cleaning forgotten corners, and managing the accumulation of items that had built up over the years. Detective Mitchell maintained periodic contact with the Thompson family, checking for any new information or developments that might advance the investigation. However, by mid-1996, the case had effectively become a cold case with no active leads or promising directions for investigation. The lack of progress in finding Alex had created significant strain within the Thompson family. Robert's drinking relapses led to arguments with Linda, who blamed him for not doing enough to find their son. Marcus felt caught between his parents and struggled with his own grief while trying to maintain some sense of normalcy. In November 1996, just over a year after Alex's disappearance, Linda Thompson decided that the family needed to begin the process of moving forward with their lives. She announced plans to redecorate Alex's bedroom and to organize the basement storage areas that had become cluttered over the years. The project of organizing the basement was assigned to Marcus, who welcomed the opportunity to have a constructive task that might help him feel more connected to Alex's memory. Marcus had always been methodical and organized, traits that made him well suited for the sorting and cleaning work. Marcus began his basement organization project on November 15, 1996. Working systematically through boxes and storage areas that hadn't been thoroughly examined for several years. The basement contained the accumulated possessions of a family that had lived in the house for over 15 years. As Marcus worked through the various storage areas, he found many items that brought back memories of his life with Alex. Old school projects, sports equipment, family photographs, and other mementos from their shared childhood. The process was both comforting and painful as he remembered better times. On November 18th, while organizing a storage area behind the basement's Christmas decorations, Marcus discovered a cardboard box that he didn't recognize. The box was tucked away in a corner where it wouldn't be easily noticed and appeared to have been deliberately hidden rather than simply stored. When Marcus opened the box, he found what appeared to be the burned remains of books or papers. The contents were badly damaged by fire, but he could see that some text remained legible on the partially burned pages. The smell of old smoke and ash still clung to the materials. Marcus carefully examined the burned papers and realized that they appeared to be pages from a diary or journal. The handwriting on the legible portions looked familiar, and as he studied it more closely, he recognized it as Alex's distinctive script. The discovery of what appeared to be Alex's burned diary in the family basement was both shocking and confusing. Marcus couldn't understand why Alex would have hidden a diary, why someone would have tried to burn it, or how it had ended up concealed in the basement storage area. As Marcus carefully examined the partially legible pages, he began to piece together fragments of Alex's thoughts and experiences that painted a disturbing picture of his brother's life in the months before his disappearance. The diary entries suggested that Alex had been dealing with serious problems that no one in the family had been aware of. The burned pages contained references to fear, threats, and a desire to escape from a situation that Alex described as impossible to live with. While much of the text was illegible due to fire damage, enough remained to suggest that Alex had been terrified of someone or something in the weeks before he vanished. Most disturbing were fragments of entries that mentioned Dad's threats and can't tell anyone and have to get away before something happens. The diary seemed to suggest that Alex had been afraid of his own father and had been planning to leave home to escape some kind of danger. Marcus sat in the basement staring at the burned diary pages, trying to process what he had discovered. The evidence suggested that his missing brother had been living in fear and that their father might have been involved in Alex's disappearance in ways that the family and investigators had never considered. The discovery would force Marcus to confront the possibility that the family he thought he knew was built on secrets and lies, and that his father might have been responsible for Alex's disappearance. The burned diary would finally provide answers to Alex's fate, but those answers would destroy everything Marcus thought he understood about his family. Chapter 4. The Burned Truth. November 18, 1996 was the day that would finally solve the mystery of Alex Thompson's disappearance, but it would also shatter Marcus Thompson's understanding of his family forever. As Marcus sat in the basement examining the burned diary pages, the partial text revealed a horrifying picture of his brother's final months. Marcus carefully spread the damaged pages on the basement floor, trying to arrange them in chronological order while preserving what remained of the legible text. Despite the fire damage, several complete sentences and numerous partial entries could still be read, providing fragments of Alex's thoughts and experiences. One entry that was largely intact was dated September 15, 1995, just 3 weeks before Alex's disappearance. The text read, "Dad came home drunk again last night. He cornered me in the kitchen and started talking about how I was disappointing him. He grabbed my arm so hard it left bruises. I can't let Marcus see this happening." Another partially legible entry from early October described an escalating pattern of threatening behavior. He said if I ever told anyone about his drinking or what he does when he's angry, he would make sure I regretted it. I'm scared of what he might do to Marcus if I don't keep quiet. The diary entries painted a picture of Robert Thompson that was completely different from the sober, concerned father that Marcus had known for the past 2 years. According to Alex's journal, their father's sobriety had been a facade, and he had been drinking secretly while becoming increasingly violent and threatening toward Alex. Marcus found entries describing incidents where Robert had physically confronted Alex, threatened him with violence, and warned him not to discuss their father's behavior with anyone, including their mother and Marcus. Alex had been living in fear while trying to protect his younger brother from the same treatment. The most disturbing discovery was an entry dated October 10, just 2 days before Alex's disappearance. "I can't take this anymore. Dad said he's going to teach me a lesson that I'll never forget. I think he means to really hurt me this time. I have to get away from here before something terrible happens." The final legible entry was dated October 12, the day of Alex's disappearance. "Dad's been drinking all day and he's getting that look in his eyes. I can hear him downstairs talking to himself about how I need to be taught respect. I'm going to leave tonight. I'd rather live on the streets than wait for him to follow through on his threats." As Marcus read these fragments of his brother's terror, he began to understand that Alex's disappearance had been an escape attempt rather than an abduction or voluntary departure for unknown reasons. Alex had been trying to flee from an abusive situation that he had successfully hidden from everyone, including Marcus. However, the burned condition of the diary raised disturbing questions about what had happened to Alex after he left home. If Alex had taken the diary with him when he escaped through his bedroom window, how had it ended up burned and hidden in the family basement? And who had tried to destroy it? Marcus realized with growing horror that the only person who could have recovered Alex's diary and attempted to destroy it was his father. This suggested that Robert Thompson had not only been abusing Alex but had also been involved in whatever had happened to him after he left home that night. The implications were devastating. Alex had tried to escape from his abusive father, but Robert had somehow tracked him down and had done something terrible enough to require destroying the evidence of Alex's fear and the true reasons for his departure. Marcus understood that he needed to contact the police immediately, but he also realized that turning in his father would destroy what remained of his family. His mother had no idea about Robert's secret drinking or his abuse of Alex, and the revelation would devastate her just as it was destroying Marcus. However, Marcus also knew that Alex deserved justice and that his father could not be allowed to escape responsibility for whatever he had done. Marcus carefully gathered all the diary pages and took photographs of them with a disposable camera before calling Detective Mitchell. Detective Mitchell arrived at the Thompson home within an hour of Marcus's call. When she examined the burned diary pages, she immediately recognized their significance and arranged for the evidence to be processed by forensic specialists who might be able to recover additional text from the damaged pages. The discovery of Alex's diary completely changed the direction of the investigation. Detective Mitchell obtained search warrants for the Thompson home and Robert Thompson's workplace, looking for additional evidence that might corroborate Alex's account of abuse and provide clues about his ultimate fate. The search of the house revealed that Robert had been hiding alcohol throughout the property, confirming Alex's diary entries about secret drinking. Investigators also found evidence of recent repairs to the basement floor, including new concrete that had been poured in one corner of the room. When investigators used ground-penetrating radar to examine the basement floor, they discovered an anomaly beneath the new concrete that suggested something had been buried there. The excavation of this area on November 22, 1996 revealed Alex's body, wrapped in plastic and buried approximately 4 feet beneath the basement floor. The forensic examination of Alex's remains confirmed that he had died from blunt force trauma to the head, consistent with being struck by a heavy object. The condition of the body and the evidence at the burial site indicated that Alex had been killed shortly after his disappearance in October 1995. When confronted with the evidence from the diary and the discovery of Alex's body, Robert Thompson's carefully maintained facade finally collapsed. On November 25, 1996, he confessed to killing his son during a violent confrontation on the night Alex had tried to escape from the house. According to Robert's confession, Alex had confronted him about his drinking and abuse before attempting to leave through his bedroom window. Robert had followed Alex outside and had caught up with him in the backyard, where a physical altercation had resulted in Alex's death. Robert had panicked after killing Alex and had brought his son's body back into the house, where he had hidden it in the basement while deciding what to do. He had eventually buried Alex beneath the basement floor and had tried to destroy Alex's diary to eliminate evidence of the abuse that had led to the tragedy. The confession provided complete answers about Alex's disappearance, but it also revealed the full extent of Robert Thompson's deception. For over a year, he had participated in search efforts and had expressed concern about his missing son while knowing that Alex was buried beneath their own basement floor. Chapter 5. Family Destroyed. The arrest of Robert Thompson on November 25, 1996, marked the end of one of Ohio's most tragic missing person cases, but it also marked the beginning of an even more devastating reality for the remaining members of the Thompson family. Linda Thompson was completely shattered by the revelation that her husband had been secretly abusing and had ultimately murdered their son. She had lived for over a year believing that Alex might someday return home, never knowing that his body was buried beneath the floor of their own basement. For Marcus Thompson, his father's confession meant not only the loss of his brother, but also the destruction of everything he had believed about his family. The father he had looked up to was revealed to be a murderer, and the year of searching for Alex had been an elaborate lie designed to cover up the most heinous crime imaginable. Detective Mitchell worked with prosecutors to ensure that Robert Thompson would face the full consequences of his crimes. The evidence against him was overwhelming: Alex's diary documenting the abuse, the discovery of his body in the family basement, and Robert's own detailed confession. The forensic analysis of Alex's diary revealed additional text that hadn't been initially visible, providing even more evidence of the systematic abuse that Alex had endured. The diary painted a picture of a teenager who had tried desperately to protect his younger brother while living in constant fear of his father's violence. Robert Thompson was charged with first-degree murder, child abuse, and obstruction of justice in Alex's death. The prosecution argued that Robert had planned and executed Alex's murder to prevent him from revealing the abuse, then had spent over a year deliberately misleading investigators. The trial began in spring 1997 and attracted extensive media coverage throughout Ohio. The case had shocked the Millfield community, which had spent over a year searching for Alex while his killer participated in the search efforts and expressed concern for his missing son. During the trial, the full extent of Robert's deception was revealed. He had not only killed Alex but had also manipulated his family and the entire community during the year-long search. His performance as a concerned father had been entirely calculated to avoid suspicion. Linda Thompson testified about her complete ignorance of her husband's abuse of Alex and her devastation at learning the truth. She described feeling betrayed not only by Robert's violence but also by his willingness to let her suffer through a year of uncertainty about Alex's fate. Marcus Thompson's testimony was particularly powerful, as he described discovering the burned diary and realizing that his father was responsible for his brother's disappearance. His courage in reporting the evidence had been crucial to finally bringing Robert to justice. Robert Thompson was convicted on all charges and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The judge noted the particularly heinous nature of his crimes, including his willingness to deceive his family and community while his victim's body lay buried in his own basement. The resolution of Alex's case had a profound impact on the Millfield community, which had invested enormous time and emotional energy in searching for him. The revelation that he had been murdered by his own father and buried at home challenged everyone's assumptions about family relationships and domestic violence. The case also highlighted the hidden nature of domestic abuse and the ways that abusers could maintain public facades while terrorizing family members in private. Alex's diary had revealed a level of fear and isolation that no one in his life had suspected. Linda and Marcus Thompson were forced to rebuild their lives after losing both Alex and Robert. They moved away from Millfield and the house where Alex had lived and died, unable to continue living in a place that held so many painful memories. The Thompson family home was eventually demolished, as no one wanted to live in a place where such a tragedy had occurred. The lot remained empty for several years before being redeveloped, serving as a silent reminder of the family that had been destroyed by violence and deception. Marcus Thompson eventually became an advocate for victims of domestic violence, using his experience to help other young people recognize the signs of abuse and find help before situations became dangerous. His courage in reporting his father's crimes had saved other potential victims. The case led to improved training for law enforcement officers in recognizing signs of domestic violence and understanding how abusers could manipulate investigations. Alex's story became part of educational programs designed to help identify families at risk. Alex's diary, which had survived Robert's attempt to destroy it, became a powerful reminder of the importance of believing victims of domestic violence and providing them with safe ways to report abuse. The burned pages had ultimately provided the evidence needed to expose the truth. The investigation also revealed failures in the system that had allowed Robert Thompson to successfully hide his abuse of Alex. Better communication between schools, healthcare providers, and law enforcement might have identified the warning signs and prevented the tragedy. Linda Thompson established a foundation in Alex's memory that provided support for victims of domestic violence and their families. The organization worked to ensure that other children would have access to resources and protection that Alex had lacked. The basement where Alex's body had been hidden was filled in and sealed before the house was demolished. The location had become a crime scene that could never be forgotten, representing both the horror of what had occurred and the importance of never giving up the search for truth. Marcus Thompson's discovery of the burned diary had finally brought justice for Alex, but it had also cost him his father and the family life he had known. His courage in facing the truth had been essential to solving the case and ensuring that Robert Thompson could never harm anyone else. Final words. The resolution of Alex Thompson's case in 1996 brought justice for a young man whose life had been cut short by the person who should have protected him most. The discovery of his burned diary had finally exposed the truth about his disappearance and the systematic abuse that had led to his murder. Alex's story became a catalyst for improved domestic violence prevention programs and better training for educators and healthcare providers in recognizing signs of abuse in teenagers. His diary served as powerful evidence of how victims could suffer in silence while maintaining normal appearances to the outside world. The Thompson family's tragedy highlighted the importance of creating safe reporting mechanisms for young people experiencing abuse at home. Alex's isolation and fear had prevented him from seeking help, ultimately leading to his death when he attempted to escape on his own. Marcus Thompson's courage in reporting his discovery, despite knowing it would destroy his family, demonstrated the importance of choosing truth and justice over loyalty to abusive family members. His actions had been essential to finally bringing Alex home and holding Robert accountable for his crimes. The case led to improvements in missing person investigation protocols, particularly emphasizing the need to thoroughly investigate family members even when they appear to be cooperative and concerned. Robert Thompson's ability to deceive investigators for over a year had nearly allowed him to escape justice entirely. Today, Alex Thompson's legacy lives on through the domestic violence prevention programs established in his memory and the improved investigative techniques that resulted from his case. His story serves as a reminder that abuse can be hidden behind facades of respectability and that victims need multiple avenues for seeking help. The burned diary that Marcus found in the basement had preserved crucial evidence despite Robert's attempt to destroy it. The partially legible pages had provided a window into Alex's terror and had ultimately led to the discovery of his body and his father's conviction. Robert Thompson remained in prison for the rest of his life, ensuring that he could never again harm family members or deceive communities while hiding his violent nature. His conviction had brought justice for Alex while protecting other potential victims from his violence. The house on Maple Street where the Thompson family had lived was eventually replaced by a small memorial garden dedicated to victims of domestic violence. The garden served as a reminder of the importance of protecting vulnerable family members and believing those who found the courage to speak out about abuse. Alex Thompson's story continues to educate law enforcement officers, social workers, and community members about the hidden nature of domestic violence and the importance of persistent investigation even when cases seem to have clear explanations. His memory lives on through the lives that have been saved by improved recognition and prevention of family violence.